Ganesh Hardwar from Victorian Lawyers, and together with Deep Purusram, our director at Victorian Lawyers. Oh, hi Deep, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Ganesh?
Oh, very well, very well. Welcome to our very first episode of the immigration news that we're doing with Planning for Victorian Lawyers.
Yeah.
And I would like to welcome you on board, and we can give our listeners the opportunity to listen to a couple of discussions on some very interesting New Zealand immigration tribunal cases.
Yes. So Ganesh, today we will have a quick chat about one of the interesting case, which is dealing with residence issue. I can see you have a copy of the decision in front of you.
That's right.
And perhaps we'll start with sharing what are our views. Again, that's a decision released, it's a public decision from the Immigration Protection Tribunal, which is available online as well. But we will just briefly share our views in very lay terms so our audience can understand some of the points and also contact us if they have any questions.
One of the reasons that I found this case very interesting, Deep, was because the applicant had actually come into New Zealand under a student visa, where she was planning on completing her postgraduate studies and then moving on to securing a job and a future in New Zealand. However, things didn't actually go according to plans, and I'd like us to discuss some of those issues and how relevant expert advice is at different stages of application.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
I'll give you a bit of background about this case here. So this applicant, she had moved to New Zealand with a family in view of completing her postgraduate studies. She had successfully completed her studies and she went on to get a 3-year work permit visa, which was allotted to her. However, once she went to apply for her permanent residence, there was Immigration New Zealand actually raised a few issues around the ANZSCO category that she was applying under. So, do you want to talk a bit about the ANZSCO and how it is relevant?
So, as you've picked it up, ANZSCO is quite relevant, especially when someone is applying for work visa or even based on residence. That's where the Immigration New Zealand will be looking at the particular qualifications and experience required for a particular position, and ANZSCO provide a good degree of guidance. Yeah.
And so, in this situation, how often does immigration actually use the ANZSCO to gauge whether they will whether they will approve somebody's residency status?
Well, as you have seen from that decision, it's not only Immigration New Zealand. The tribunal has been referring to the ANZSCO description and the court task that the particular applicant was to perform. So, again, it's on a case-to-case basis whether a person's duties or tasks are exactly matching it or very similar to it. But at the end of the day, that guidance is important because at the same time, Immigration New Zealand ensures that people with the right qualification and experience get hired.
Right.
So, I guess, yeah, it's quite important that not only we are we are legal advisors, we can guide clients, we can guide our customers around the technicalities, the legal technicalities. But there are also employment issues that come up, okay? And ANZSCO can guide on certain duties or qualifications you may have, but there might also be tricky situations where it could be a mix of two different professions that one person is going to be hired for. But again, without going too far, we come back to that decision. As you've seen with that decision, there was one key issues about whether the position that she was employed, the title and the description. The tribunal has laid emphasis on what ANZSCO has referred to in terms of the descriptions.
Right. So I guess the main issue was that her visa got declined by Immigration New Zealand, and then the applicant actually took the case to Immigration New Zealand. And the main issue that the tribunal had to decide was whether Immigration New Zealand was correct to find that the applicant's employment was a substantial match, right? And the word here, I guess, is substantial match to the occupation of the ANZSCO. And also they had to sort of find out whether there were special circumstances that was peculiar to this family settlement in New Zealand that warranted a recommendation that the Minister of Immigration would consider an exception.
Yes, I agree with you. I mean, again, like you've seen, there are certain statutory requirements that need to be dealt with. But every case, especially when we are dealing with exceptional circumstances, we need to turn our attention to case-to-case basis. You see, every fact will have its own situations and evidence and circumstances. Where in one case you may have exceptional situation, in another one it's really not the case. It's really a case-to-case assessment. Yeah.
And in this case, the applicant, when she lodged the application for residency, she actually claimed 50 points under the migrant category. And because she was not in the right position in terms of being under the correct category of the ANZSCO, the 50 points that she had claimed actually got deducted. And when the 50 points got deducted, she was no longer in a position to be qualifying for the residency visa. Now, the next thing I guess we talk about is how can audiences ensure that they are in the right category?
Oh, that's a very good question. It's always prudent to obtain legal advice before engaging into the immigration process, especially for people coming to New Zealand on work visa or work-related visas. Where they will have a long-term planning process, and if your documentations are correct, then it becomes easy even for immigration officials to assess whether you're suitable. Remember, just having health and character requirements ticked off is just one part of the process. Okay. In employment matters, qualifications and experience and duties that are listed in ANZSCO, all factors that the immigration will look at when they are dealing with your work visa. So it's always good. My practice, my view of it is for the clients to obtain legal advice, and Victorian Lawyers can very well assist you guys in that process. We have expertise and experience. We can deal with simple to complex matters and can even represent you before the tribunal.
And so in this case, to actually ascertain whether the applicant met the ANZSCO requirements, the steps that Immigration New Zealand had taken was to actually interview the applicant.
Yeah. And
they have also sent emails to the applicant's employer asking for the job description and details. So in this regard, do you think having professional help would have made a difference to...
Definitely. So remember, before a person submits an application for any visa with Immigration New Zealand, that person would want to understand the process. What happens? How does immigration deal with files, right? Like for instance, like you just picked on, immigration could contact the employer, would want to check whether the duties match what ANZSCO has. In certain instances, it could even be the case that immigration does on-site visits to check whether works that are being carried out are actually what the person is claiming for. Again, there is a lot of discretion in terms of the assessment of the duties, but being aware of it, understanding it, helps you to prepare a very proper and concise application with all the correct information for immigration officials.
So I would say, is it prudent to say that sometimes if you don't have the right advice, years of hard work and sacrifice might not eventuate into the goal that one might have had planned for the future?
Exactly. So as you know, Ganesh, immigration rules keep changing.
That's right.
And unfortunately, it's not just a matter of filling the forms and submitting an application, it's your whole life at stake. There are many cases where people's visa get declined and that stays on the records, unfortunately, especially with immigration. They will always go back and look at your past history of applications. So it's always best to do it the right way.
So I guess to all our listeners, I'd like to say we at Victorian Lawyers, we have the necessary skills and capabilities to help you do a proper assessment of your visa and help you plan the process that might be required for you to have to get a successful result. So feel free to get in touch with us, email us at Victorian Lawyers, and we will do our best to help you out.
Definitely. You can go on our website on www.victorianlawyers.co.nz or even call me on 02041 20 20 20, and we are here to assist you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.